thing that really got us going. It's like funny how we start. Somebody's asking me about that today in an interview, and there's the three of us. Chuck Biscuits was the drummer, Randy Rampage was the bass player, and I was the singer. And we didn't really have a band. This is about I just left Toronto. I lived out here like in late '77, early '78, and we had a band called the Skulls, and we played the Shock Theatre. I'm trying to think what other places. Club David, which was a really early, it was a gay club, but they had a couple punk rock nights, and we used to play with bands like The Ugly, The Vile Tones, bands like that. Anyway, so we moved back to Vancouver, and me and Dimwit, my old buddy drummer who's not with us anymore, rest his soul, but he ended up starting the Subhumans, the Vancouver Subhumans, not the English ones, who are also a very fine band. And I ended up, I put an ad in the Georgia Straight, which is like our local, like kind of like the Now or whatever, out in Vancouver, and looking for a drummer. So I found Randy Rampage, right, who's turned out to be a crazy man, crazy rock and roller, and a dear friend of mine. And it was a drummer, but it was a really mediocre drummer, right? And so I thought, you know what? You understand rhythm, so I taught him how to play bass. So it was easy. So I had a bass player, right? So they only had just one really bad habit. Before each song, when we first started out, he would have to play the riff just before he started, so he would remember how the song went. Like, go do 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 do. I go, fucking don't do that. Next song, it's like, and then I found Chuck Biscuits, and he was about 15 years old, and boy phenom drummer, and he drummed for DOA, Black Flag, Circle Jerks, Danzig, Social Distortion. Retired now. But anyway, so the way we got going, there used to be this old jam space in Vancouver, like on the waterfront. It was called 343 Railway. And people would just go in and hang and party, drink, jam, that kind of thing. And we're jamming, and this guy came in, and he had a bottle of whiskey in one hand, and a girl on that arm, and a girl on the other arm, and they stopped, and people would just sort of party and look at you, right, and listen to the band, and nod their head or whatever, and he goes, fuck, you guys are pretty good. You know what we ought to do? We're going to start a band. You'll be the band. I'll be the singer. We'll call it DOA. We'll make $1 million. And, we were just like three rubes from Vancouver, and we kind of looked at each other and went like, okay, sounds good. Yeah. You're the singer, right? So it turned out that Harry, his nickname was Harry Homo. That's what he called himself, right? So you had Harry Homo, Joe Shithead, Chuck Biscuits, and Randy Rampage, right? It's the age of nicknames, right? So, and he turned out to be a super nice guy, but possibly one of the worst singers I've ever heard in my life. Like, he could not start on time, behind, he was ahead, behind, whatever. So finally, after about 1.5 gigs, he just said, Joe, you take over the vocals. So I did. So anyway, so we went through and we started writing songs right away, because that's one thing I learned, was to write songs pretty quickly, right? And we came to this truism, like, we couldn't really get anybody, we couldn't get a manager, we couldn't get a label, and nobody really liked us. Hi, Bob, how you doing back there? It's my buddy Bob there. And remind me, I have the sunglasses for the CNIB. Have to sign them, right? It's a donation thing, so yeah, cool. Okay. Anyways, I raised money for the CNIB, Canadian Institute for the Blind. And anyway, so the truisms we came across as the three of us in DOA was that everybody hates us, we'll never get anywhere, and we'll never get a record deal. And we're just like, sort of, we were kind of glum. We were going like, oh, fuck, this really sucks. We put all this effort into this band. I mean, hey, it's Jesse the Kid Pinner and Dirty Dan Sedan. Give him a hand, my rhythm section. They have bought a box of books, right? Jesse's also a roofer, so that's why he's carrying the books in that style, right? Thank you guys. Very good timing, right? So, anyway, but we did record this single, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. It was actually a 4-song, 7-inch EP. And we started mailing it around the world, like to Toronto, to LA, London, New York, to magazines, radio stations, and it started to become like a little bit of underground hit. And not long after we recorded and started mailing it around, that we knew that we were like really onto something. That what happened, there was this thing that happened in Chicago. There used to be this old DJ, and probably most of you who are here are too young to remember this, but a guy by the name of Dr. Demento. Yeah, okay, it was really totally cool. That the only But back, you're talking like 1978, the only guy that would play anything daring or different at all, right? And so what he decided to have, and think about the music back then, the biggest types of music were disco and stuff like Fleetwood Mac, right? It was just like, it was a really crappy era for like music. Rock music was really weak for the most part. Not completely, but for the most part. And so Dr. Demento decided to have an anti-disco rally at Comiskey Park, where the Chicago White Sox play, in between a doubleheader. So what they did on the pitcher's mound, Dr. Demento was it had the PA system going in the stadium. There's about 10,000 people there, and they bought like disco records and disco suits and disco paraphernalia, right? And they just they threw it onto the pitcher's mound and set it on fire. And of course, Dr. Demento was on the PA going, "Burn, baby, burn, disco inferno, burn, baby, burn," that kind of thing, right? And what happened? People had such a good time. I guess they were kind of like Vancouverites, right? As soon as this was over, they decided to riot and they tore apart Comiskey Park, right? No good reason. They were just having a good time. They were like stupid as the people in Vancouver, you know. So this became like a big news item, and I saw this, right? We just put out the single, and people had all these shirts, and I knew we were onto something. And this whole single became our passport to go travel in the world for the last 33 years. But people had shirts like "Death Before Disco," or the other one was really common was "Disco Sucks," which is this song. Around town, tons of people down around, sick, disco sucks, like shit, tons of people down around, disco sucks, like shit, lots of toxic people, building about 6 people, lots of toxic people, building about 6 people. Lead section, use your imagination. Like shit, like shit.